From the Dallas On Air studios in beautiful Dallas, Texas, this is Fulfillment here on DallasOnAir.com. And now here's your hosts, the Vegabomber PJ Dunn and the Film Samurai, Carlos. Yo, let's go.
Peeps, good to see you guys on this bright and sunny Mother's Day. Although yesterday it looked like an audition for Seattle out there, didn't it, Carlos?
Yeah. Rainy.
Oh my goodness!
But umbrella out.
Yeah, you might need two umbrellas yesterday. The way that rain was coming down.
The water's like coming even up. Like remember in Forrest Gump? He's holding his hands. The water was coming up. It was rain sideways, up, down, everything.
Well, as it turned out for Mother's Day so far, the sun has come out. So maybe it's going to be a really good Mother's Day for this edition of Fulfillment. And actually, I thought about that too, Carlos. So I wanted to think about some of the famous movie moms that were out there. So I know you did some research on this. Tell me what happened when you were doing your research.
Okay. So you want me to go first? Okay.
Yeah.
I did something I try to be creative with it. On my Twitter, I have a lot of movie fans, of course. Mm-hmm. They're creative but sick, some of them. So I said, who are your favorite movie mothers? So I got answers like some were, typical Sarah Connor, okay?
Yeah.
Terminator. A user, AZH Jade, gave that one. A couple other people did too.
Okay.
Then we got Lorraine from Back to the Future.
Marty
McFly's mother.
Marty McFly's mom.
Yeah. The Many Mothers from Mad Max, Fury Road.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's quite interesting.
Creative. And then they started getting a little bizarre.
Okay.
Joan Crawford from
what?
Mommy Dearest?
Yeah. The coat hanger. No, Mommy, no.
No wire hangers. Yeah, and then like two people in a row gave me Mother from Alien, the computer Mother. The actress Helen Horton. I actually looked it up. There's the actress did the voice of Mother, Helen Horton. Let's see, Angela Lansbury from Manchurian Candidate.
Wow.
Eleanor Shaw, Iceland. Norma Bates from Hitchcock's Psycho.
What? Oh, my goodness.
And you got a normal one, Shmi Skywalker, the mother of Anakin.
Shmi Skywalker. Okay.
Was she his real mother, right?
Yeah, she's his real mom.
No father.
Right? But no father, unless, of course, we find out something later in episode 9.
Margaret White, played by Parker Laurie from Carrie, De Palma's movie.
Yeah.
Mrs. DeVito, I like this one. Mrs. DeVito, remember Goodfellas, right?
Yeah.
Remember they all went to this old lady's house? And
yeah.
It was DeVito's mom. Mm-hmm. That's Martin Scorsese's real mother.
Really?
And she was making real spaghetti dinner for him in that scene.
See, you learn something new every day.
Then we came to Pamela Voorhees, Friday the 13th.
Wow.
Best mom ever.
And somebody gave me one.
Goodness.
They sent a picture. All it was a picture, and it's Jeremy Davies holding a woman. And so I had to go look up the picture. And I said, I've never seen this movie. It's a David O. Russell film called Spanking the Monkey. I think it was one of his first movies.
Oh, no.
Have you seen that?
I remember the film vaguely.
No.
The premise is that he lost some scholarship or something, and he has to take care of his mom. She broke her leg.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of holding her, and there's kind of really bizarre relationship with him. So I don't know, whoever this guy, All Flicker was the one. So let me, Andy Skipper, Reluctant Gent, Dashiell Davies, Bern Surker, Gail S.H.,
These are the names of the folks.
GVT, yeah. I told him I'd give him a shout out. Real Reviewer, Cosmere, First Time Watchers, The Big Lumbowski, All Flicker. And Zardoz67 gave me the weirdest one. It was The Brood. Did you ever see The Brood?
Never.
This is an old Cronenberg movie. Oh, my God. He sent a picture.
No.
And look it up sometime.
Okay.
It's Nola is the mother, Samantha Egger.
Okay.
Beautiful actress, but the movie is weird. It's early Cronenberg is the strangest stuff.
Very strange.
Yeah,
well,
so there's your movie.
Wow. Well, in the vein of shout-outs, I do want to give a shout-out to Mad Mel, who's always there. And whenever we put this show up on PJ Dunn, or actually on the Vegabomber channel, what you see is he's always there, or she's always there commenting, and I think that's great. And also Stephanie Crane, who watches this live. She could be watching right now, so shout out to you, Stephanie Crane.
Hey, Steph.
So mine, I went with 4 different movie moms. You list one of them, and so I kind of did it by their style. So I have Elaine Miller, who was Frances McDermott in Almost Famous. So it's funny when she's giving the band advice. I thought that was hilarious. It's like, if that's not a mom scene, I don't know what that is. That was awesome. And of course, how can we forget Sally Fields as Mama Gump?
Oh yeah,
in Forrest Gump. I mean, she's the one that said, life is like a box of chocolates, right? And she gives that to Gump. So and Sally Fields, man, what a career she's had. So you can't miss her. And then in Edward Scissorhands, the mom there, I think her name was Peg. I thought she was pretty good. I mean, when you can say you love a child that has hands like that and see the beautifulness in them despite everything else.
Yeah, mother's love is as strong as love in the world, right?
Yes, it is. And then, of course, the mom that can kick your butt and actually really throw a shoe across the room and hurt you, Sarah Connor, ladies and gentlemen, Linda Hamilton, we got to give her a hand. We got to give her a hand. We got to give her a hand. Zach, did you have a movie mom that stands out to you?
Oh, gosh. Let me think on this one. I love the Alien Mother. That one made me very happy. God, let's see. And of course Pamela Voorhees. Certainly one of my favorites.
She can make the list. Anybody can make the list.
That's right. God. Yeah, I'm trying to think of any. I'm trying to think of any others.
Well, as it comes to you,
yeah,
just go ahead and throw it out. So. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. So this is the Fulfillment Show, and as you know, if you've been watching for a while or if you're new here, we're glad to see you here. Go ahead and make sure you punch and subscribe, like, all that good stuff that you would do to help any great channel that's coming along. What we do here is we talk about movies, and we talk about movie collecting, and we talk about the behind the scenes, the technical parts of movies, and not necessarily just on the big screen, but also the Netflix ones as well. And so this is something that when you go see a good movie, when you feel the need to want to go talk about it with other people, you have reached that thing called fulfillment, and maybe even more fulfillment once you get a chance to talk about it. So with me today is, as always, my co-pilot, the film samurai himself, Carlos Salinas, who kicked off telling us his mother jokes and his mother picks and that sort of thing. So
mom jokes.
That's it. And that's what we should talk about today. Mom jokes, right? Your mom's is so,
Your mom's so ugly.
Your mom is so Thor Lumbowski that it takes her 5. No, anyway, so here we go. So let's jump into our first segment. What we're going to do here is kind of look at the films that are coming out this week. Then we're going to give you our honest opinion of what we think. And there's my wiki for segment 1, picks of the week. And here are the list of films, and then we're going to go through it and talk about the one we think is probably the pick of the week, if you will. So the first movie, this is Pokemon Detective Pikachu. It's a comedy that's coming out, PG. Pokemon, an hour and 34 minutes. It's like half the time of Endgame. The Hustle. It's a PG-13 comedy starring Rebel Wilson and Anne Bancroft, Catwoman. Hathaway, yes. What did I say? Bancroft.
Anne Bancroft.
Where am I thinking? I'm taking it to some crazy places this morning. Old school. But yeah, that's Catwoman and the chick that's big. And then we have Tolkien, which we're going to talk about that as way in terms of the movies that we've seen. That's a PG-13 biopic. It's an hour and 52 minutes long, still shorter than Endgame. And then, of course, May 17th, John Wick is what we're all going to be looking at. But today we're going to talk about just this week. But just so you know, coming up in May, also Godzilla, which we're looking forward to. That's Memorial Day weekend, which we'll have a special show around Memorial Day weekend. And Rocket Man, another biopic, which is going to pick up, I guess, maybe where Rami Malek left off with Queen. Now we get another rocker, and it'll be called Rocket Man about
another
Elton
gay
John.
rocker.
Another gay rocker, Elton John. So let's
not
look at the
that
picks
there's
of the
anything
week.
wrong with that.
Yeah, not that hasn't happened before. So we got Pokemon, The Hustle, Tolkien. Let's talk about Pokemon. So what do you think about that?
Pokemon, not for me.
Yeah.
Pass. My kid used to be into Pokemon. I mean, he was at that age where he came in. Pokemon was super popular. I hear the movie's funny. I mean, it's Ryan Reynolds doing the voice of Pokemon. It's a detective story, a noir, if you will.
Yeah. So we got
but that's all I know about it. I just found out Bill Nighy is in it. So
Really?
I love Bill Nighy.
Wow.
He was who's it, Davy Jones in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. I just love his voice.
Yeah?
He was
Okay.
in Rango too as the rattlesnake. Oh my god, he's got a great voice.
Now, Pokemon is directed by Rob Letterman, so you might know him from Shark Tales. So it's another movie in that same kind of genre. Yeah, so we got Deadpool now playing one of the most interesting Pikachu. Was it Pikachu? Pokemon. So this is for me the same thing as you. This was probably after this. This was after my time. So if it wasn't G-Force or Speed Racer or something like that, then yeah, I'm probably not going to be into it, I guess, from that perspective. But Pokemon is there, and I think
I guess I'll watch it if it comes out on Netflix.
If it comes on
just
Netflix,
to watch it, you know.
Yeah, it's part of that pop culture zeitgeist. You have to check it out. Kazak, you think about. What do you think? You want to go see
basically,
Pokemon?
you take your kids to go see Pokemon, but you go to see Ryan Reynolds and hope that you're going to get a Deadpool joke in there.
Kind of entertaining.
Fair enough, and that's actually maybe how you have to look at that.
From what I hear, Ryan Reynolds did R-rated cuts and R-rated jokes and things like that enough to fill a whole movie again.
Oh no!
So you know,
That'll be a
but
director's cut.
you've got to love Ryan Reynolds and the one-man marketing machine that he is. Honestly, that you have to be really impressed by his gumption to get some minimally terrible film into screens and getting more people to watch it.
Yeah, yeah,
You really got to admire his. You really have to admire his chutzpah.
yeah. He's got a knack.
Yeah.
It's a knack, right? So the other one is The Hustle. So The Hustle is the comedy out of these, along with, I guess, Pokemon's also considered a comedy as well in terms of sci-fi. So The Hustle, what do you think? Is this something you want to see? The synopsis is what, two old women?
What's this is a remake of
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels?
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, but
Yeah,
female version.
but with
Which
females.
they're doing that constantly now. I hear they're going to make a female version of Cliffhanger, the Sly Stallone movie.
Really?
Yeah, with female director, of course. And
That's going to be a
We'll
whole
see.
subgenre now. Movies that were once led by males, now led by females. Here they go.
the Magnificent Seven with all women.
Yeah.
Wasn't that Ocean's 8?
Yeah, or something. Yeah. So I guess if you just want to see what it would look like if there were less testosterone and more estrogen, here you go. So The Hustle, let's see. This is Anne Hathaway.
I kind of love Anne Hathaway. I mean,
I do too.
She's a decent actress. I mean, she's got a screen presence. Did you see Serenity, by the way?
Yeah.
I kind of liked her in that. She's kind of a different role. She likes to stretch and do different things. She's not just a one-note actress. So
Yeah, I like her too. One of my favorite scenes that comes to my mind every time with Anne in it is in The Dark Knight Rises, where they tell her, "Don't worry, we can protect you. We're the police," and she gives that eye roll like, "Please, really?" That eye roll was classic. Like that should be a meme that people should show. I think the meme they always show is that Tony Stark one in the first Avengers where he rolls his eyes after
when
Captain America
Bruce
said, "I got
Wayne
that reference."
catches her with the safe, says that safe is unbreakable. Oh, they didn't tell me it was unbreakable. Yeah, she had broken into it already.
My wife's TV film, the movie that you stop on TV no matter what time it is, no matter what day it is, it's always Devil Wears Prada.
Oh,
The Devil Wears Prada. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, because I've had to see it so many times because it's the one that she stops on. But again, like I said, I've made her stuff with her Breakfast Club and a whole slew of others. But yeah, she's passable in it. She's decent in it. She holds her own with Meryl Streep, and you really got to give her credit for that.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's anybody that can hold their own with Meryl Streep is doing pretty good. That's like being able to hold your own to Daniel Day-Lewis if you're a guy. If you can hold your own next to him.
Even with Robert De Niro and was it called The Intern or something?
The Intern? Yeah. No, that was a good flick too. I like that one.
Yeah. And the other one that she will stop on all the time is Pitch Perfect. So again, I got Rebel Wilson in this one. And again, Rebel's got great timing. She really does.
Yeah, she does.
Is she from New Zealand? She's got a New Zealand accent, right?
Is
she a New Zealand
actress? I'm not exactly
Oz
sure.
or New Zealand, one of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what you would see. So basically, one of them is the rich girl con woman, and that would be Anne probably. And then the Rebel Wilson's kind of like the street variety hustle person. So you get the two classes of the rich and then the poor hustler going in trying to hustle more men. So That's the hustle, if you guys want to know. So, and not to be confused with the dance of the '70s. So there you go. So Tolkien. Now I know you saw this, so we won't talk a lot about it. But Tolkien is also the other film that's out this week, PG-13. It's a biography, also maybe somewhat war flick in there as well with what's going on. This is 152 minutes, as we said off the top. So that's not too bad. That's just under 2 hours.
It didn't feel like 152 minutes.
Wow, that's
I'll
pretty
say
good.
that.
Yeah.
But I'll save the rest, for later.
Yeah, yeah. So Tolkien, anybody here not know who he is? I'll tell you this, after this movie comes out, I bet you everybody will learn how to pronounce his name. I bet that's the case.
Oh, yeah. They would do a little video spot of it,
Tolkien. Yeah, that's good.
I always thought it was Tolkien.
Tolkien.
Like it's spelled, but of course, like there's a word lean, like you put a lean on somebody's house. Tolkien. Tolkien. Oh, man, it's the way it's spelled. Keen.
Yeah, no, that's how it is. And so just know that that's what's coming up this week. And so out of those 3 films, I'll say this too. There's, just as an honorable mention, there's a movie called Palms that's coming out that also has a very young first-time director. I think she's directed TV shows but not movies, and I think her name was Zero something or other. But that film is, somehow they were able to land Diane Keaton, and that film is all about a retirement home that wants to have the women be the cheerleaders. They want to be cheerleaders in this retirement home. So it's like to prove that they still got it, even at the retirement age. And that's a movie called Palm. So that's
Zara Hayes is the
Zara. Yeah, Zara Hayes. I knew it was a very unique name. And I think the other one is, we talked a little bit about this before, was called Charlie Says. And so it's a film about the women that were in the Manson family and how they're still in jail and how they're dealing with the idea of, hey, have you ever come to grips that you actually killed people? And so that's a pretty interesting take, and it's taken from a book.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by Charlie Manson. I'll see that.
Yeah.
Anything with Charlie Manson, I'll watch.
Yeah, and so that one's called Charlie Says, so you might check that out. So that might be pretty good. And so moving forward for the rest of May, what can you look forward to? You guys know John Wick 3 is coming out, so we got the 3rd one coming out.
John Wick.
We got Godzilla. Godzilla will be here, king of the monsters, and so we'll get to see a bunch of different monsters that he gets a chance to fight this time. It won't just be him stomping on us and what the other monsters.
You seen what they did at the Cinerama Dome in Los Angeles?
No, what did they do?
They did a installation on top of it where they put the head of Godzilla poking out, like it's busting out of it, with rocks around it.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
at night, it's got a like a spotlight, so it's shooting out that blue up into the sky. So it's like
that's pretty cool.
It's pretty awesome.
Sometimes the marketing of these movies are just even better than the movie sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think this will be pretty good.
No, from what I've seen of this movie, it looks immense. It
Yeah.
looks like it's going to be visually. I want to see this on the biggest IMAX screen possible with Dolby sound. And
Me too, and there better not be any time travel in this
There's
movie.
no 3D.
And then
Well,
finally,
all I'm saying is there better be monsters in this one. Like, if you got a
That's
Godzilla
right.
film and you're going 45 minutes without showing the monster, there is something wrong.
Oh my! Somebody asked that question on Twitter. It says, "Okay, all movies would be great if you put Godzilla in them. So, what's your movie that you would put Godzilla in to make it better?" And somebody put Godzilla 2014 Godzilla because Godzilla hardly ever showed
or
up.
it shows up in that movie, kind of like Jaws.
I want the answer. I want the answer to that question from you guys, though. I do. No, seriously.
What movie would be better if we put Godzilla in it? Oh, that's
Yes.
easy. Captain Marvel.
Jaws versus Godzilla. Jaws is tiny though. You just pick him up and drop him in his mouth like a goldfish.
Pretty Woman, just because I want to see Julia Roberts smashed up.
Oh,
Stepped on.
Stepped on.
That old cartoon Bambi versus Godzilla.
Yep.
Bambi walking in. Bam.
Bam.
Foot comes down.
That end of movie. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
That's
very
all I
much.
need. That's all I need. Okay.
Now, and the final movie for May that you will want to see is Rocket Man. So we get the biopic of Elton John, which this is interesting because this is, I didn't picture this, but it's Taron Egerton that's going to
love
play
Taron
him.
Egerton.
And I
I
love
like
him
this
because
guy.
he was with Kingsman fame,
Kingsman,
right?
yeah.
So he's going to play a serious role of a real character. And he looks like him, surprisingly enough. I didn't think he looked anything enough like Elton John, but what they've done
Oh my
to
gosh.
make him look pretty
Some
good.
of those scenes when he comes out and does that, was it Dodger Stadium performance? He's got that outfit with the Dodger cap and everything. Looks just like that.
Yeah.
That scene,
Yeah.
in real life.
So if Rami Malek can get an award for his portrayal as playing Freddie Mercury, I wonder what Taron Egerton will do as Elton John, because he's also beloved. Elton John also has a lot of hits, a lot of songs. He spanned the gamut as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens come Oscar nominee time.
Who's his writing partner that wrote a lot
Bernie
of
Taupin.
Bernie
Bernie
Taupin. I
Taupin,
wonder
yeah.
how much he'll be in the film.
Not sure. Not sure.
Also, by the way, if you want to see another good Taron Egerton movie, Eddie the Eagle is underrated. That movie is good.
Eddie the
Hugh
Eagle?
Jackman's in it.
Yeah.
That's a really good movie.
Well, this is going to be Taron Egerton is probably one of those actors that's coming up that we'll end up appreciating. And he probably could be the new modern version of maybe Harrison Ford at the rate he's going, if they can give him enough scripts, because he can play action.
Surprised he hasn't been mentioned for James Bond.
Yeah,
taking over
I'm
James
very
Bond.
surprised at that as well. Wasn't there a character in Star Wars that they were thinking about putting Tarleton in as, or am I just making that up? It seemed like
he going to be Han Solo, maybe?
I think
Before they got the other guy.
I think he was one of the guys that I guess they put up on a board of people who could possibly play Han Solo. So I think that's it. Yeah, that's the connection. Well, all right. Well, let's move on to segment 2. And segment 2, boys and girls, cats and kittens, dogs and puppies, is all about the movies that we've recently seen. So, Carlos, as always, we start with you, and there's our wiki. What have you just seen, Carlos?
Yesterday, I went to go see Tolkien.
Uh-oh.
The director, Dome Karukoski.
Yeah,
from
he's
Finland. Well, he was born in Cyprus, but I think he grew up in Finland.
Yeah, he's like half American and half Swedish or Finnish.
He was a football player.
Yeah.
Soccer football player over there. And but I'm not familiar with his work. I think from this movie, I'm definitely going to go check out some of his older films. Stars Nicholas Hoult and Lily Collins. The Beast. What do you mean?
The Beast from X-Men. He plays Beast in X-Men.
Yeah, that's right. I was thinking the Beast from Glass.
That's the other X-Men.
Wait a minute. That's
the other
McAvoy.
X-Men. That's McAvoy. That's Professor X doing his Beast impersonation.
Lily Collins with her beautiful eyebrows.
Yeah.
Of course, the daughter of Phil Collins. But yeah, Tolkien is a biopic of J.R.R. Tolkien, John Ronald Reuel. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Reuel. And the opening shot is basically World War One. He was an officer in World War One, and then it kind of jumps back and forth in time.
Okay.
During the war, he's got a heavy fever. He's looking for one of his friends that was also in the war, and you see a lot of imagery of Lord of the Rings type, the ring race, things like that. The dragon, the war was like, World War One especially was awful. That war to end all wars.
Yeah.
It was horrific. And then it jumps back to where he's a young kid. He was an orphan. Well, his dad passed away, and then his mom passed away, and then the church found a sponsor for him, an old lady who took in orphans, and that's where he met.
Now we don't do spoilers, but yeah.
Edith, his wife.
Can you do spoilers in a biopic?
Yeah.
The boat sank. Get over.
I mean, if you really know the story, you know all this stuff. But
Exactly.
and then he goes on to school. He was, of course, he didn't come from a great family, but he ended up in a rich boys' school, and ended up befriending 3 other guys, and they kind of created their own society of gentlemen, and they met in this place, had tea, and they talk about art, basically. One was, J.R. Tolkien was a writer, of course. One of his friends, Geoffrey Smith, was a poet. Robert Gilson was an artist, and Christopher Wiseman was a musician, played piano, composed. They were all talented. And that was their kind of bond that they made with each other. We're going to change the world through art. And this movie, if you love art, language, music, it has everything. It's a beautiful film. And even if you're not a fan of Lord of the Rings, this movie's just watchable just for the storytelling. It has some amazing scenes. So I definitely recommend it. It has so much in it. I mean, on so many levels. And I'm not ashamed to admit, I teared up in the movie several times.
Wow.
And it's rare for a movie to do that.
How were the performances of, well, I guess Beast, Nicholas, and I guess
they were great in it. They had a real chemistry, and that's kind of what made me tear up, is when they have these scenes where they're together. He wants to take her to see an opera, the Wagner's Ring trilogy, and she's always wanted to see it. She admires Wagner, and they can't get in. He doesn't have enough money. Only certain seats are available, and you have to be dressed a certain way. So he's really embarrassed, humiliated. So he takes her around the back, like backstage. They find a door and prop it open so they can hear it. And there's a great sequence where the music starts playing, and you recognize those opening notes and stuff. And then they just perform it for themselves. She puts on a cape and a mask, and they just do this whole sequence. It's amazing sequence. I mean, just like choke me up just watching that scene.
Wow.
And I definitely recommend it. It's just a fantastic film. All the performances are good. You'll see some old English actors, that they always bring out for these films, and you'll recognize them, and they're all great. And it basically goes from him as a young man all the way up to World War I, and how these events, life-changing events, inspired him. And they throw in little things I won't spoil, but if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you'll go, yeah. He'll make you smile. And oh man, I wish I would have watched this, because they had these things called it was kind of like a Tolkien watching meetup. They were having them at certain theaters, and if you went, you could meet other fans, and they'd give you a pin and have drinks afterwards and stuff. I didn't do that. I almost regretted it, but I think there's still some of those events going on. But yeah, definitely fantastic movie. I'd watch it again. I'll buy it as soon as it comes out. Blu-ray.
That's good. Now, we didn't say what our picks of the week were before I moved us to the second segment, but I'm going to bet between those three movies, Pokemon, The Hustle, and Tolkien, I'm willing to bet that we're both going to agree that Tolkien is probably the movie to go see for sure. And that sounds great. The movie that I saw this week, and I was about to go see Tolkien yesterday, but it didn't quite work out for me, was Netflix. It was a biopic on Bob Marley. And it was incredible. And I love Bob Marley. I loved me some Bob Marley back in the day, and I still do. His music, who he was. And so this biopic is actually excellent. It's not super long at all. I think it was barely an hour. And it talked a lot about the political climate that was going on. It talked about Bob Marley getting shot. I think it was called they made it play off the title of the song, "I Shot the Sheriff," and I think it was who shot the sheriff. Yeah, that's it. Who shot the sheriff. And so what's interesting about this movie is it is the live cuts and interview. It's the live cuts of Bob Marley talking in interviews and these sort of things, and then the people who knew him best, who were speaking into that night when he got shot. So if people don't know, Bob Marley was they attempted an assassination on him because of a concert that was coming up, and it was very political because there was a guy who co-opted it. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But these guys came over to shoot, and as it turns out, one of the bullets grazed his chest, and the other one actually landed into his arm. So he was shot, but there was one gentleman, his friend that was there, that actually got killed, and he had taken like 5 or 6 bullets, and it was because he was standing in front of Bob.
Right.
So these guys kind of ran in the doorway, pop, 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 and then they kind of took off. And so it talks about how here's this guy who, Bob Marley, early days, was just trying to be another version of American's Temptations with his band and stuff before you drew the dreads and became one of the Rastas, if you will, Rastaman, and looking for peace. And it was just amazing to see how they shot it, in the sense that here's all this political junk going on around Bob, and Bob is just trying to say, listen, I want to use music to unify Jamaica, because Jamaica is while you see the posters and it looks like, oh, a great place to go visit and stuff, the unrest and the stuff that's boiling just underneath the surface was horrible. And so in the film, they did a great job of showing how Bob Marley, after being shot, they were telling him, you should do a concert. You should do a concert for all the people, of Jamaica, and let them know that there's hope and all that. And at first he didn't want to do it because he got shot, right? He was like, I don't know about all that. And so then he finally decided to do it. And then one of the political party leaders, the PNP and the JNP, were kind of like our Republicans and Democrats. One of the guys on the PNP side decided, hey, let's co-opt it and pretend as if he's doing it for us, to show support for us, because there was an election coming up. And so that put Bob in a tough spot, because he wasn't writing music and performing music for just the PNP. He was writing for all of Jamaica. But this guy decided, the main guy for them, decided, hey, let's pretend like this is all part of our deal and let's be there and try to get these people to sway them to vote for us and all this stuff. And it talks about the chaos that all ensued after all that happened. But just seeing Bob Marley, like towards the middle where he has the one concert where he's trying to bring both sides together and he pulls them both up on the stage. And they were saying that's never happened before.
Wow. Yeah.
But then the tragedy was that was great for that moment. But afterwards, it increased the violence, having that one concert that was supposed to bring back hope and joy back to the Jamaicans. And so it's very intriguing. There's a lot of stuff people don't know about Bob Marley.
Check that out.
They just think, oh, it's just a guy sitting back smoking a lot of weed, just playing reggae. And it's like, no, his song lyrics are deep. He was like a superhero in a lot of ways because he was trying to unify. And he was just trying to say, music is our way out of this, guys. Not the violence, not the guns and all the other stuff. And yet... You know,
a lot of the guys back then, they preach peace and love, man. But that's really what it's all about, peace and love. If you don't have that, you might as well, write the world off because it's just,
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. So if you haven't seen it, it's called it's the Bob Marley. It's on Netflix. It's a biopic. And what was it again, Zach? It was
Who Shot the Sheriff?
Who Shot the Sheriff?
Yeah.
So, and if you don't know, he had a song Eric Clapton also covered called I Shot the Sheriff. So very clever, very cool way to go about that. So now we're going to get into the big bulk of today's show, talking about. Normally we do in the third segment the MILF, the movie I'd like to fix. But today we're just going to finish up on our Endgame spoilers. And there's our wiki. And so we're not going to necessarily attempt to try to fix Endgame, but we do want to talk some more about the Endgame. And now that Kazak's seen it, we can throw in another voice. So I noticed this week, and ever since the movie came out, there have been several contentions, arguments, fights, things that people are talking about. And one of those things, Carlos, that people were talking about was the idea that Black Widow didn't get a funeral. So where do you land on that? And Kazak is for sure want to hear what you think as well.
She didn't get a proper emotional death.
Yeah.
I can see that. And and I don't know why they did that. I guess it was to do a recall of that Gamora scene, from the one before it, because it basically mirrored that scene.
Infinity War.
And I guess, but it was kind of, if you're a real fan of Black Widow, you kind of feel cheated. You feel like, God, they really didn't give her a proper send off.
Yeah.
But the emotional build up towards that scene with her and Hawkeye, I actually kind of like that little bit, although it played very short. I mean, but for what it was. It was actually pretty effective because of course, we've known from the past films their relationship. They worked together before, and there's a kind of a deep bond between them. So it's just fighting back for who's going to give up their life. So that kind of little scene kind of worked for me. But I see where people are coming from on that. Like compare that to the Tony Stark death scene. It's like, oh my God, emotional drain, crying and everything, but.
Yeah, because they both gave up their life, both Tony and Black Widow, and they're both part of the original six. They're part of that original core group. So that is an interesting choice that the Russo brothers just decided to kind of almost hand-wave it by just having a little dialogue by the lake where Scarlet Witch, of all people, who doesn't really know Black Widow that well, is talking to Hulk about it and that sort of thing. But Kazak, what did you think when you saw that?
I wasn't offended by them limiting it because, again, where Tony basically saves everyone, the Avengers is Black Widow's family. I mean, she has no relations. Like I said, these are the six people who, basically know her best. She no spoilers, but she winds up running S.H.I.E.L.D. because Nick's gone.
Yeah.
So basically, like I said, these are these are the intimate people. These are the people who are going to miss her the most. These are the people who have the impact upon them. I don't think they necessarily needed to give her the big send-off, and particularly because we also know that, like I said, we're getting a Black Widow TV series. We're getting another Black Widow movies. So she's coming back. We're not getting Robert Downey Jr. back. We're not getting Chris Evans back. These are the two that we're sending off. But her, we are getting back. So we don't necessarily need to give her the big send-off.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that so if I harmonize that a little bit between the people on the online that are outraged that she didn't get this big deal, I would just simply say maybe at funerals they put pictures up of the fallen officers who have been killed, and so maybe if she'd been on an easel with her picture up too, it at least would show that. Just as a way, because I agree with you. You don't have to go into a full scene that takes 2 or 3 minutes to explain what they feel about that, but I think you do want to put the imagery there, so that when people are coming mourning, they're not just mourning Tony. They can also see Black Widow's face on the screen as well. So I saw that done very well in that movie End of Watch, where they had multiple officers who were killed, and they showed a funeral with the police officers all there, and they had the pictures of the particular officers on easels. And I think putting that there and slow panning kind of around so you can see it, it reminds everyone that, hey, they're also grieving Black Widow as well as they're grieving Tony. So that's kind of how I might harmonize that. Another thing that blew up online that people are arguing, fighting, and ready to they're verbally punching each other in the face for, is this whole idea that Cap gave his shield to a black dude and not Bucky, his best friend. So it's like, why? Why does Sam Wilson get the shield, not Bucky, when Bucky's his best friend? So,
oh, really? Wow. Oh, my God. That's something else. No, I wasn't aware of all that stuff. I honestly haven't been following any of the reviews and stuff. But, yeah, that's kind of shocking. Black dude, like, what? Who cares?
Yeah. Well,
but like in the comics, there was Captain America and Falcon. They had a comic together. John Romita drew it for years, and so why not? Bucky's his friend, but does Bucky really want to take over Captain America? I don't think so.
Right.
He's got his own thing coming on.
Yeah, see, my thought about that, too, is that, well, first of all, in terms of the MCU and the movies, do we even know where Bucky's head's at this stage of the game?
Yeah, exactly, right.
We don't know that. And besides, he's killed a lot of people. He's still going to be seen as somebody. So imagine him trying to be Captain America. Captain America is what's right about, the people. And here's the guy. He's going to have to go in and go, hey, guys, sorry, it wasn't me. My mind was twisted. That's what it was. It wasn't my fault that I killed all those people. My brain, I don't see that. I don't see how he could do that.
Do you think it's like just pure racism that people just don't want a black guy?
I think there's a fringe group out there. There is a fringe group out there that all they do is they whine about movies.
Make everything about race.
Every time there's a white woman that does something that they hate Brie Larson altogether, and then they hated Black Panther because they thought that it got it got a 97. It's like, no way, that movie's better than Black Panther, or better than Batman, The Dark Knight. So how is that? It's only because critics were afraid to say something about Black Panther because they'd be called racist. And so there's a theme out there with some people, and I look at that, and do I think that's all of them that are having a problem with it? No. I think most of them just know Bucky's, as one of Cap's closest friends, obviously. But I would say there is that fringe group, and I did see a video, and that's all this guy was doing. And it's a bad thing when they start off with, hey, look, I'm all for diversity, but it's like, no, you're not. As soon as you say that, you're not.
You're
but
racist.
To me, the logical sense is, why not hand it to Falcon? Falcon has always been a dependable dude who was always there for Cap, always had his back, where Bucky... Cap had to go save Bucky from himself. And again, we still don't know where his mind is at, and will people be able to forgive him?
He was brainwashed.
To be, because he's
right,
brainwashed.
and he can still be influenced. Meanwhile, Sam has always held the same sense of duty that Cap always has.
Yeah.
He's always served the American interest and the public trust, whereas Bucky, like I said, disappeared and basically can still be influenced. He can still be taken down through his mind. I don't think it was feasible for them to hand him that shield. But handing the shield to Falcon, it makes sense.
Totally makes sense. And I think the Russos tipped the hat, because remember in the beginning of the movie, what did they show Captain America doing? They show him after the snap, 5 years into it. He's sitting down with a support group, and that's exactly what Falcon was doing in Winter Soldier. When we meet Sam Wilson, Captain America's walking through the hallways, and he sees Sam Wilson in there leading a group of guys who are veterans who just come out of war dealing with their PST.
Yeah, that's
post-traumatic. So that, to me, was like, that made sense to say, well, here's Cap doing it now, helping people with their PTSD, just like the way Sam Wilson had done it in Winter Soldier. So it makes sense to me. So, I didn't personally have a problem with that, but I was amazed at some of the people. And some people just did it because they're Bucky fans, and I get that. But there is that fringe group that thought, oh, see, you're trying to write all the white guys out of the films, right? And that's probably because of the comics, Marvel Comics, how they turned Iron Man into Riri Williams, and they turned Thor into a female, Jane Foster, and they turned. Yeah. So I can see where they're kind of getting a little frustrated. Yeah. But I think there's a better way to talk about that and handle it. So as you don't,
you got 60, 70 years of white guys running this,
right?
Can we get something?
Can we get one?
Yeah, can we get right?
You've got one. It's called Superman, and until you replace him with Michael B. Jordan, shut up.
We don't even have any Mexican superheroes, for God's sake.
You've got
right.
You've got Peter Parker. Come on, you can have Peter Parker. Well, the rest of the world can have Miles Morales. It's fine.
Yeah, I think that this should be a non-issue at this point in stage of the game. So that's kind of silly that that's going on. But then here's one that actually does have some interesting little weight to it, and I was kind of interested in it, and that is, what is up with Fat Thor? And this caused a problem, and I can see two arguments here. I can see both sides of the argument. I don't think one is a knockout argument, like it should be okay just because he was depressed. I can see the other side too. But what did you think of Fat Thor?
Yeah, Fat Thor, I think I mentioned it when we first talked about it, that it came off kind of awkward and kind of forced, maybe, that they were just trying to do something, throw something unusual in there to kind of, make the audience, oh, wow, Fat Thor, whatever. But, yeah, I have no idea what was behind it. To me, Thor is a god, right?
Yeah.
Like, why would a god just let himself, can he let himself go like
that? Right.
If all he drinks is beer, I guess, but he's not mortal.
Yeah.
Or is he part mortal? I don't know.
He's not mortal at all. I mean, there's two different, there's a couple of different versions in the comic books where there was one where he was Donald something or other. He was a blind man that when he hit a stick, he could turn into. But the Thor that most people know, no, he's a god. He's Odin's son.
Odin,
he's
right?
son of Odin. Okay. So if Odin can fight through battles and lose an eye and still be a tough warrior king he's a warrior that's also a king, then you could see where Thor would be right in line with that. Now, my issue with it was a couple of things, right, with Fat Thor. Like, for one, for a gag, sure, that's funny. But I think the first thing was it was off-putting that he was made the butt of a bunch of jokes because he let himself go. If I have a friend who's let himself go like that, I'm more concerned about him rather than wanting to make fun of him, which is going to push him further down that deal. That's a serious call for help. When people start letting themselves go and they start getting out of their normal patterns, that's a person who's suffering with the clinical depression, serious clinical depression, not just the garden variety that you can just not feel good. And for him to be that way for 5 years, that's not funny. And I know it was played as a joke, and so I felt that was probably the awkward part that you're talking about that I felt was a little weird. Mm-hmm. The other part is, to your point also, to me, and I could be wrong, I certainly want to hear Kazak's thoughts as well, but to me, Thor should be more like King Leonidas. He should be more like Maximus. He should be more like Braveheart. This is a warrior dude. This is a dude who loves the fight. And to me,
not the Big Lebowski.
If you lose most of the Asgardians because you felt like it was you that didn't do the right thing at the last minute when you needed to, it would seem to me that you would fight as hard as hell then for the ones that are remaining.
Yes.
Right? You wouldn't just all of a sudden go, no, I'm going to abdicate my kingship for 5 years and just become this bloated fat guy. So what I felt like is in order to try to make him relatable, as if Thor wasn't already kind of relatable before this, they kind of, to me, was like pandering to the gamers out there by saying, hey, let's make him like a gamer. And Thor doesn't have as much in common with 16-year-old mortal teenagers as much as he does, to me, with King Leonidas, Maximus, and Braveheart. So to see him be that deconstructed the whole time bothered me. And then the fact that when he went back in time and he saw his old place and his mom, he should have been broken down. He should have been torn up by that. Right? Because Asgard's gone.
Yeah, it came off very like a playful scene.
Yeah, it was just like, well, you go in there, young rabbit, and go do your thing, and I'm going to go find some more meat that's in my father's.
If I seen my mother and she was dead and I got a chance to see her again, I'd be like in awe.
And he just happened to run into her.
Yeah, choked up and like, oh, Mom, like, God. Yeah, that scene played really weird with me. I didn't get that at all.
Her advice was, don't be who you're supposed to be who you are. But he doesn't know who he is, so he's got to be something. So I don't know that it helped. And then she said, eat a salad. And so even in that moment, they couldn't keep it serious. They had to throw a joke in there. And she says, eat a salad. So I'm kind of like, this is a man suffering some serious and severe depression. and it's just treated like it's just funny. And I'm like, I just couldn't quite get behind that. Kazak, what do you think, man?
Well, I think part of the fault is the way that they've turned Thor, and the fact that you went from serious Thor, directed by Kenneth Branagh, to funny Thor, directed by Taika Waititi.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you were going to have anyone who was going to pull off these scenes with them, it was going to have to be him, because again, they couldn't do it with Ant-Man because he's been gone. And Hulk is already doing the super intelligent thing, so you've already got
But
that
he's
character.
dabbing people and stuff, and he's being all...
but like I said, this is the guy who, again, is the PTSD character, because with this guy, he watched his whole planet get blown up. He watched his brother die, and he watched
Adopted brother.
But basically, his whole world, after thousands of years of victory, he was defeated, and he's never had that. So you can see why he is where he is.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, to Lebowski him, yeah, you're right. They did do a lot of jokes at a lot of folks' expense, and it can be triggering. By the same token, the fact that he was the super confident guy, and now you've got a broken guy at hand.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like I said, this isn't a goodbye to Thor. Like I said, where we say goodbye to Chris Evans, where we're saying goodbye to Robert Downey Jr., we're not saying goodbye to him.
Yeah.
We're going to see, we have more time for him to evolve back. And the fact is that they're going to keep him a comedy character because they're going to evolve him with the Guardians.
Yeah, which is crazy because you already have plenty of comedians with the Guardians. You don't need yet one more comedian.
That's probably why they put him, because he plays it so well. And I
He
think
does.
that's probably what happened is they saw his humorous side. They said, let's just play that up.
Yeah, it's
Why not?
it's Hemsworth.
It's
I get it.
entertaining for the audience. The audience loves it. That's what they care about, the audience. They want the audience to come back again and again and watch
sure.
it 4 times in a row.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can see it's
See, and to that point, here's the point about that though, because and I love that point. But to what you're saying, Kazak, think about this: nobody on that team had it easy, right? Mm-hmm. So when people start saying, "Yeah, but Thor dad died," look at Captain America. He on 70 years he was on ice.
Scarlet Witch fat?
He never saw his mother. He never saw his mother and father buried or anything like this at all. And then his friend, the only contemporary of him, tries to kill him in a movie prior to this. So I could also argue that Captain America, who's immortal, but look what he did. He says Captain America goes away with, I could do this all day. Mm-hmm. He's immortal, and this is Thor. He's he's lived for thousands of years. He lives by the sword. He dies by the sword. He knows that one day,
right. But he does.
if you kill plenty of people, one day it's going to come back on you, because he lives by the sword. He dies by the sword, just like all the people written in antiquity like that.
Yeah, but he doesn't lose.
What's that? Yeah, he does. Lose. He lost a lot,
but he's lost in this one.
Well, he lost even before this. Mm-hmm. Remember, and he lost his dad, and
But
Ragnarok.
he made pancakes and learned how to understand humanity. Oh wait, wasn't that the whole premise of the first Thor?
Oh my gosh, the whole thing about that is interesting, right? Because think about this.
It all started with that.
Yeah,
Give me more.
Right? And I thought back then, think about it. I don't mind Thor being humorous, because he was. Remember in Avengers when they said, they say something bad about Loki, and he goes, "Have care what you say of my brother," and he goes, "He killed 6 people." Well, he's adopted. I mean, that was funny. I liked Thor when he's funny in spots. I don't like it when he becomes a slapstick boob that everybody's making fun of. But to that point, I just say it this way, right? Look at Scarlet Witch. You want to talk about who's lost shit here? Look at Scarlet Witch, right? She's an orphan. She's weird. She's a mutant that doesn't understand her powers. Nobody understands her. She loses her brother in the very first fight that she gets in. And then in the third fight, she loses her boyfriend. So Scarlet Witch also damaged. Look at Iron Man, right? He already suffered PTSD earlier, because when he went on that thing to save the rocket, when the rocket went up to go and he went and grabbed it and pulled it back. Next movie, we see he does his crazy drinking stuff and wants to DJ and all that crazy stuff. And then the third one, he does the whole, post-traumatic stress syndrome, right? And we see that. This is so Iron Man. Then Iron Man's parents were killed by Winter Soldier, a guy that one of his good friends, Steve Rogers, protected. Right. So I'm sorry, I can't sit here and say that Thor's issues were way worse than anyone else's. They all had significant loss, but here's the difference. Notice all those humans, none of them let themselves go and become a former shell of themselves. Now, they were depressed, but they didn't let themselves go and become the opposite of who they were. And so I'm just wondering, what's more interesting? This is what I'd ask to the writers. What's more interesting? Watching Thor have to go and find himself with the Guardians of the Galaxy, or having the duality of saying, I've got to be a king to the Asgardians that's left, and at the same time, I got to recover. But I do have a family, the Avengers, right, that can help me, because look at what they're doing, right? So I think what some people have said online is they've said, well, Thor lost. It was Thor's fault. I'm like, no, it wasn't. All of the Avengers lost, right? Remember on Titan? They had a chance to pull the glove off of Thanos, and they almost did until Peter Quill walked up and started punching Thanos in the face, which made him come out of that spell. And then he pulled the Guardian, right? So that loss wasn't really just on Thor. I know a lot of people are trying to characterize it was just Thor's fault because he should have went for the head instead. But really, they all suffered the loss.
Yeah,
everybody lost something. And to me, Hawkeye was the way Thor should have been.
Yep.
Going out murking people, because that's what you would do. You're a man of war. You spilt plenty of blood. To me, you would go spill more blood. Now, drinking, I get. He should be a drunk. And he says in Dark World 2 that there were many battles in Valhalla where they had much mead afterwards, right? So you get that he's a hearty drinker guy. And even in Thor 1, he wanted to go drink. Yeah. Like Conan, yeah. But to turn him into a 16-year-old shiftless video game playing, that I was kind of like, that's why I said you went too far.
What did you think was running through my veins? Cheese whiz.
Cheese whiz, yeah. Rode you for the joke, right? So that's my only real problem with that, is just because I think, and Thor to me was awesome at the end of Infinity War when he walked up and although he didn't cut the head off, when he was taking the axe and shoving it into Thanos' chest going, I told you you would pay. And I was like, yes, thankfully. I got a Thor that actually looks like Leonidas, that looks like Maximus, that actually looks like a badass, rather than just the joke of the day. That's the Thor I want, I love. And then the final thing, the big question in the movie was, explain this time travel crap with Cap. So are there two Caps then? How could he be on ice for 70 years, but at the same time also being married and living a whole nother life with his sweetheart Peggy? That was the other one that people were really confused about, and I am too, by the way.
So confused.
I think I'm good with it, and I think I understand what they did. At least why.
Break it down. Oh, I think I know why they did it, but tell me what you got.
All right. So basically, Cap's been fighting for 70 years, and I mean he's just gone through the two biggest fights of his life. He wants to retire. He's put everything back the way it was, and now basically he doesn't need to be Captain America because, again, he knows that once he reaches this point in time, he can hand the shield off to someone that he trusts and retire.
I'm good with that.
He gets to have his life.
Yeah.
So basically, he goes back in time, and rather than using the PIM particles to return back to the point of where it ends, he goes back to the point in time where he's happiest. He goes back into the point in time where he sees Peggy Carter and basically picks up his life from there. So he can still be on ice, but exist in this other timeline because, again, he's not coming into contact with himself. He's basically away. He's not. He doesn't have to be Captain America. He's Steve Rogers, and he's now Mr. Peggy Carter.
Yeah, and see, that's strange because, the problem with that is if you do that with him, then you could do that with everyone else as well if you just give them the PIM particles. And so then you could have people living multiple different lives all at once, and it's just confusing in terms of timeline because how we know things is by timeline. When somebody dies, it says, here's when they were born, here's when they died. So timeline is very important. So if you're out there creating a bunch of different timelines, and if people can, if they have the right particles, can just go jump to whichever time they want, and still be living the other life at the same time concurrently, that seems to me like a problem. And again, it's a movie, and it's a sci-fi movie, so you have to let it go. But I just thought I understood why he did it, but I was just trying to figure out how could you do that, right? And have two different Captain Americas during the same timeline on the same planet doing the same thing, right? Because they would have to happen concurrently. They aren't separated from each other. So how can you do both at the exact same time? That's what confuses me about that, and I think that's just probably time travel stuff. I don't know. What do you think, Carlos?
I just took it for what it was. He lived that life and just ended up there at that particular point because I guess he knew they were going to be there and just sat down on the bench and they noticed him there and they came over. But they kind of didn't they kind of tip that off with when they kept sending when they were testing it with Ant-Man.
True.
He'd go back, come back as a baby, come back as himself, and then come back as an old version of himself.
Yeah.
So he went through a different timeline, right?
Yeah, and what they showed was that he had a transponder on him, though, and that's what he was using to control it. And remember, it was Tony Stark who had to figure out how to do it right, because Hulk.
So when he came back old, does that mean he lived a whole life when he came back at that point?
Right, and that's the part that I'm going, I don't know, but how could you do them both at the same time, right? That's like the people who didn't, when he zapped, remember they were saying that they said something about it's going to seem like years to us, but it's only minutes to them when they go back in time. And so if that's the case, if we stay in the current, but you go back in time, but it's only going to be like 5 minutes since you're gone, that, again, creates more struggle for me, because I'm kind of going, well, then why don't you just mass produce a bunch of these things, and every time somebody dies, just go back before they died.
Didn't the writers and the director have different opinions?
They did,
on it, right?
and in fact, that's what they were
straighten
showing.
it out?
They tried to, but that's the problem with
It's
time
hard.
travel.
Yeah, you really
because-
can't. You can't explain it.
No, you can't, because it's not real.
It will
doesn't
never
happen.
work, no matter how you try to, doll it up or whatever. But yeah.
But to your point, Kazak, I love the fact that we did get to see a Cap. That's a good send-off for Cap, to know that he did get a chance to get that one last dance and go back. However, which way they did it, it was kind of nice to know that that he did get to go do that.
I didn't get to mention it when we first talked about it the first time, but that was one of my favorite scenes, is when he's at that army base and he's looking through the window and he sees her in there. And it's like, oh, man, how would that feel? You see her again.
Yeah.
When the last time you saw her was on her deathbed, right?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, what do you guys think? I mean, you've seen us sitting here and we're kind of noodling through it, and movies make you think, and especially if you put some intellect into a movie, it only means that there could be several different interpretations, and that's the fun part, right? Everybody can sit down and talk about what they kind of pulled from it, what they kind of didn't, and kind of enjoyed from there. So have you seen the movie? Have you seen it several times? I've only seen it twice at this point. I don't think I really need to see the movie again. It's 3 hours. Maybe when it comes out on DVD, I will.
Once is enough for me.
Yeah, once is enough for you. Yep. What about you, Kazak?
I don't need to see it again until it's Netflix.
Okay, so he doesn't need to see it again as well.
No,
So what was your overall opinion of the movie?
Satisfying ending.
Okay.
I didn't need a lot. We talked about this offline. I didn't need a lot of character development on this because, again, I followed through the whole thing. I followed through all 10 years, 22 films. I was good with the way it ended. I was satisfied with the way most things happened,
Wrapped up everything well.
And knowing that, like I said, we're getting a lot of this stuff coming back on Disney Plus, because we're getting Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we're getting WandaVision, we're getting a Black Widow movie, we're getting a whole bunch of continued timelines. We got a good send off for the original 6 folks.
I agree.
And now we get to take this expanded universe and see what happens with it and replace it. And of course, like I said, it's set up nicely for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Just because I liked it. I just like the fact that it's a Troma guy made good. So I'm sorry, I'm a Troma guy. So
well, no, that's good. Well, we like that. We think that could be fun for those who are just big fans of Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think they got a new guy, and so while he doesn't want to take care of his own people, and he wants to abdicate that and leave it to another drunk Valkyrie, but that's okay. He can go and have
Are they
all
gonna
kinds
have a
of
Valkyrie spinoff? I'd love to see that.
Do
I
you?
love that actress.
Yeah. Oh, Tessa Thompson.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she's great. She's really good.
are we looking forward to the new Men in Black?
No, I'm not. But hey,
Oh yeah, Chris Evans.
it's her. It's Thor and Valkyrie again.
Yeah, wow.
So I wonder if he's going to be drunk in that one as
Thor,
well.
Valkyrie, and Liam
Or if they
Neeson.
both. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, guys, I think that's going to bring us towards the end of this week's show. Just to let you know, the next time you can see us will be May 26th. That's 2 weeks from now. That will be right in the dead smack in the middle of the whole Memorial Day weekend deal. And, of course, we talked about some new movies that will come out during that weekend. So we'll be seeing them as well, with Rocket Man and Godzilla, and for sure John Wick 3 just before that. So we will bring back the other segments that you're used to seeing as well next week and 2 weeks. And so we will see you definitely then. Carlos, how can people find you until then on the interwebs?
Find me on Twitter at Film Samurai and Facebook Film Samurai.
Awesome. And you can find me, the Vegabomber. I have the Vegabomber YouTube channel. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. Vegabomber. And K-Zach?
You can find me on the Vortex of Doom coming up after this. You can also find me here every Sunday on Talk Nerdy to be Sunday here on DallasOnAir.com. You can catch me on the Rancor Pit. You can catch me on Isle of Toys. You can catch me on Figment's The Unexplained Mysteries podcast. And, of course, many of the other shows here on DallasOnAir.com. So if you can't catch us live, you can always catch us on demand.
All right. Well, until 2 weeks from now, kick that music, K-Zach.
Hey, sayonara.
Sayonara, everyone. We'll see you. Hey, go take care of your mother on Mother's Day.
Call your mom.
Say hi to your mother for me.
Yeah, your mother. That mother.
This is DallasOnAir.com.